Okay, start with, why don't you go run through your background and experience?
Okay. I started with the Fredericktown Police Department in 1987. I worked as a patrolman for 6.5 years there. I joined the Knox County Sheriff's Office in September of 1993. I started as a patrol officer on the midnight shift and then with the 8 p. to 4 a.m. shift. Uh, this time allowed me to work during the most active times for OVI or DUI enforcement. I received the MAD Award for the most arrests at the Knox County Sheriff's Office for several years. In 1995, I was fortunate enough to be in the original group of officers from the Sheriff's Office to complete the Special Response Team training course. I remained active with the Tactical Response Unit, and in 2008, I became the Tactical Team Leader. I still employ or deploy during tactical operations as part of the command staff, but have turned the team leader functions over to one of the sergeants. When I was promoted to patrol sergeant, this gave me the opportunity to supervise the officers assigned to the afternoon shift. In 2008, when the lieutenant at that time indicated he was planning to retire, I took advanced training and classes to help myself be the best candidate for the lieutenant position. The lieutenant is a division commander for all of the patrol officers. He is also in charge of the Civil Process Division, which oversees report records, as well as court papers, warrants, and the sheriff's sales. I received a promotion to captain in 2010 after the captain at that time had retired. As second in command, I'm involved in personnel issues such as hiring, discipline, and promotions. I also assist the sheriff in coordinating with the administrative assistant, the auditor's office, the county commissioners on budgetary issues. I oversee the purchasing and maintenance of most of our supplies and equipment. I review reports for media release and handle the requests for special events. I also provide assistance to the detective division during search warrants or special operations, whether it is recording evidence or getting them supplies and equipment that they may need to work more effectively. I also serve on several community committees. The Suicide Prevention Coalition has a mission to educate the public that suicide is not limited to any particular age, sex, or socioeconomic group. They try to promote education and awareness. The Substance Abuse Action Team works to deal with problems of all types of substance abuses. One program that we're hoping to have in place within the next couple of months is an implementation of 2 drop boxes, one at the Mount Vernon Police Department and one at the Knox County Sheriff's Office. These will be for anyone to drop off unused prescription medication, hopefully to keep it from getting into the wrong hands. The more we can limit the use of prescription medication to those who actually need it, the better. The Seniors and Law Enforcement Together is a project that was spearheaded in our area by Knox County Prosecutor John Thatcher. The group focuses on helping senior citizens avoid being taken advantage of and also assist them in areas of their special needs that they may have. I guess that's some of the projects that I'm involved in.
Okay, and why are you running for sheriff?
I've been able to combine hard work, motivation, training, and a group of great coworkers to put me in position to lead the organization. I guess what led me to consider running was that more and more of the people that brought up the idea were coworkers and people that I interacted with, both professionally and personally. Their confidence in my abilities enhanced my own confidence, and I look at some of our officers, especially some of the younger officers, and can see that's the way I tried to go about doing my job and learning when I was in their position. I want to be around to share some of my motivation and experiences with them and help them progress in their careers like other people did for me. I'm looking for officers who are self-motivated, like to learn, and truly want to do a good job and project a positive image of the Sheriff's Office. I think that everyone has an important role, and that's everyone from the custodian to the agency head.
And what would you say sets you apart from your opponent in this race?
I think it's probably my years of experience coupled with the supervisory experience that I have. My supervisory experiences as a sergeant, lieutenant, division commander, and captain, or second in charge of an agency of 57 employees. I spent the past 2 years assisting in preparation and execution of the $4 million annual budget. I've spent the last 3.5 years in charge of the Civil Process Division and Records Division, coordinating property appraisals and conducting the sheriff's sales. I guess that would be probably the most things that maybe set me apart.
Okay. The sheriff's office and jail have the largest budget in the county, in the general fund budget. What can be done to contain spending and keep that under control?
I think the things that we've been doing lately, we try and limit overtime as much as we possibly can. One thing, obviously, that sets us apart, too, is we're a 24-hour-a-day operation every day of the year. We're there, we have people in the building, and we have to man and staff the building, and we're also handling calls of service, like I say, 24 hours a day. Some of the things that we do to try and keep the budget under control, other than the overtime, is there are a couple of programs that I started a while back. The Law Enforcement Support Office and the Department of Administrative Services through the state of Ohio. And both of those programs allow us to acquire a lot of equipment that we may get. The military program, the Law Enforcement Support Office, is at no cost, and the Department of Administrative Services is a lot of used equipment, but it's at greatly reduced cost. So buying or acquiring some of that equipment, we've been able to get a vehicle, patrol rifles for our officers. We trade confiscated property in. We were able to trade confiscated and unused firearms for brand new weapons for all of our patrol officers, as well as some leather gear and ammunition to go with that. And we've just tried to seize property that is gained illegally from suspects and convert that into either unmarked vehicles or trade it for things that we can use.
Was that truck that the sheriff showed me this fall, he said he'd just gotten through from Defense Department, was that one of those?
That's correct,
you're
yes.
talking about?
Yes, it's a Chevrolet pickup truck,
Yeah.
diesel, four-wheel drive with utility bed.
Yeah. Okay. Our current sheriff isn't always available to the public or media. What is your philosophy regarding an open dialogue with your constituency?
We try and make as much contact as we can. I know he works a lot of afternoons and evenings, and I'm generally there during the mornings and daytime. So between us, we try and catch as much as we can, or to make contact or return. I try and return as many calls as I can during the time.
What qualifications do you have as far as negotiating with the union?
I was actually, I think the FOP has a different word that they used. I think it used to be called union steward or chief negotiator, but they have, and I forget the term that they actually use, but they have 3 bargaining members that do a lot of their work. And I actually had that function from the labor side for several contracts, and we're just finishing up a contract that I've been able to work through the management side. So I've been sat on both sides of the table, I guess you would say.
We have heard complaints that deputies, detectives do not always dust for prints when theft burglary reports are taken.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we have seen in reports that sometimes they do.
Sure.
Is that a flaw in procedure that needs to be addressed, or is there a reason people should understand more about how that operation works?
I guess maybe it's a combination of people maybe having expectations, and a lot of it maybe comes from watching TV. You know, CSI, you can solve anything in an hour.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not always true. A lot of our guys try and look at the circumstances, see what is out, see if it is something that they can dust for prints. Sometimes you can get an indication just by looking with a flashlight at certain angles to see, you know, does it look like the person was using gloves? Does this look like some kind of pattern from there? So it's a combination. You know, was the area visited by a lot of other people right after that? So is the scene contaminated? So they try and do prints when it's when the circumstances warrant, but obviously it's not going to be every single time.
Some services just simply don't take prints very well, do they?
That's correct. There's a lot of different surface types. There's a lot of different powder types. There are ways to gather things on prints that you may not, you know, think that you could, but it's kind of a science or an art, I guess. And some of our guys have spent some extra time to be quite well at it. And if we generally get an officer who's not comfortable with a certain way, he will maybe call another officer that has a little bit more training to help him.
Do you have a plan for tackling cold cases, and how many are there?
We have detectives that try and go back or at least keep those open, try and do some follow-up on them when we get especially information on them. We have not considered the Gene Davis a cold case by any means. Our officers are still working that case, and I know they do follow-up investigation, and without saying anything specific, I just talked to our detective lieutenant, Lieutenant Roller, who was actually doing some follow-up on that just within the last day or so.
Why should people vote for you? It all comes down to that, after all.
Sure. I think some of the things I'd mentioned, my supervisory experience, I feel that I'm a good representative of the agency, both on and off duty. My community involvement involves my church, volunteering with the school functions, and I served 18 years with the Fredericktown Community Fire District. My opponent sometimes says, you name it, I've done it, and been there, done that. I prefer to talk about us and we as the agency. Any large operation or event or major investigation, I feel, is about teamwork. And all the things that my opponent and I talk about, things that we have done, really that's just our job and the duties people expect us to perform. What I think makes the difference is my involvement with the community groups and organizations both within the job and outside my job, experience in being command, and experience in being a leader in the agency.
And what other issues do you see as important in this race, or would you like to comment on?
I think just some of the things that I've been working on, some of the maybe technology. One thing I've tried to stress is maybe people and technology together. I think that's kind of the combination that we're looking for in the future. I know one of our secretaries was just working on the Sheriff's Office Facebook account, having that up and running. We're working with a company called Bear Analytical that I've spoken with last week, and we're in the process of uploading our current reports and calls of service onto the company actually does the work and plots those on what would be considered maybe a Google mapping system, so that the public could pull up their address, look at it, and see what calls of service the Sheriff's Office or what reports the Sheriff's Office has taken within their neighborhood. It also has a couple of other functions, a anonymous email tip section where they can submit information if they have information on a crime or criminal activity. And then another, I believe it's an email function where we can put out information to them too. So we're just kind of in the process of getting that up and hopefully running shortly.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Sure, thanks.